Hello. Did you see Logan's rotting corpse and think, I want one of those? Well, I did, so here's how I made him. I started off with this Halloween life-size skeleton's been sat in our living room for, well, since Halloween. We do have two of them, so I just took this one. Here you can see he's fairly short for life-size, but we'll give it to him. Took all the screws out and dismantled it, and then gave it a rough sanding in some areas that were just a bit kind of crappy looking. Strung it up for painting, and then started with a gloss black. This is also kind of a primer. It's a like straight to plastic primer, so ideal for what we're doing here. Obviously hitting it with just a few coats of the black first. Speeding up because I don't think anyone wants to watch me paint something for the entire video. And you can see we've already got a fairly reflective status with just the gloss black. Obviously continuing that with the whole rest of it. Again, I won't show the entire process of painting. I'm sure you get the gist of spray painting. You might be able to see I'm also hanging them up off of the scaffolding in the background. So thank you very much to the builders for whatever reason, coming into our side of the property. It's given me a very good rack for spray painting. Then using this cheap chrome that I got from a corner shop. And here you can see doing light dustings. I really could have just done a very light dusting and got a nicer finish. You can see the lighter areas look nicer chrome-wise, which I didn't realise until afterwards. And I ended up repainting my Thor's hammer with the same paint, and this is a much nicer effect, which you can get by just not doing a full coat. Which obviously if you want the full chrome look, this is what you're going for, but if you want the kind of in-between chrome and realism look, the light coat definitely does better. But here it is all just chromed up and hung up. Here are the blades that I'm also going to be using. I did end up reprinting these in SLA instead of FDM because I didn't want to have to sand all those layer lines down, so I just did it in resin, which worked much nicer. And now that isn't my file, I did use a file from the Thingiverse, which you can see here. I did also only use the left half, and then mirrored it, joined it as one item, and printed it on my Mars 4 Max. You can see all the parts. Some of them warped. I printed two of them just flat on the bed sideways, and those ones warped quite a bit. The ones I printed with supports were fine. They came out quite nice. It doesn't really matter because they're going to be glued together in threes anyway, so the details of them aren't really that obvious. There they are glued together. I will be removing those spikes at the ends that would obviously normally conform to your hands, but they'll be kind of just snapped off and then have this clay putty stuff put over the top of them. Now he does also have some clothes. I did just get these spare clothes and then chop them up a bit, which you can see they're just nice and ragged there. I'd also end up weathering them with coffee and water, which will just darken them and look very dirty. And also smell like a cafe. So there's those claws glued in. They should be in between the radial bones, but obviously this is a very small skeleton and I can't fit them in. It's also not an anatomically correct skeleton, so we're going to have to make do. This is the clay, I just got this off Amazon. I also added water to it, which made it a lot softer, which, depending on what you're doing, may be helpful. For this it may have been more helpful for it to be firmer for certain parts. But again, we make do with what we've got. So just here's my technique for adding that clay, just smearing it on. I try to look like very rough, fleshy material. At the end of the day, it's going to look like a dead body, so it doesn't need to be a nice finish. And here you can see where the water had really got into it and it was just like a sticky mess. So I kind of just slapped it on in some areas and hoped for the best. Now, unfortunately, I didn't realise that my phone being in the sun while recording would cause it to overheat and then shut down, so I lose all the footage of sculpting and adding his hair on. So I never got to show the rest of this process, which you can see the face took a big change, and obviously I added his hair tufts. Now there are nice photos out there of the on-set prop, and it is extremely high quality looking. I started making this when the movie had just come out, and I was basing it entirely off of memory. So yeah, he's not ideal looking. The dark wash does definitely help to bring down that highly fluorescent pink tone that he had. But you'll see that I fixed that a bit more later as well. Then just using a dry cloth to dab away any excess. I kind of wanted the eye to be a lighter colour so it looks more realistic. I don't know, it just kind of looked better with not having a dark wash on the eyeball. Then bringing out the airbrush, his hair is definitely too dark. I knew for a fact that it was meant to be grey and brown, so going in with some white just to kind of lighten it a little bit, just so it doesn't look like a synthetic black fur. It's also worth mentioning, all of this I had already in the house. The only things I had to buy were the spray paints. So the chrome and the gloss black were the only things I bought for this project. I had everything else in the house. But you can see I've used the airbrush. I've gone and done the white on his eye, the white in his hair, the grey. I also did a little bit in his hair and obviously all over the fleshy material. Which hopefully you can see here how I chucked it on. It's literally just rough and ready. I've just thrown it on in areas that I thought it could benefit from a bit of a dark kind of hue in some places, which was basically all of the fleshy bits. So I've tried to keep it off the chrome and on the flesh. You can see here it does make a huge difference. It looks a lot nicer, and the flesh was grey in the movie. Now obviously his teeth should also be teeth coloured and not adamantium, because otherwise Wolverine would have a silver smile. So going in with a white, which ended up being a little too Hollywood. I don't think a rotting corpse should have bright white teeth. So going in with a yellow to try and tone it back a little bit, which ended up being way too vibrant of a colour. I didn't realise it would come out quite so fluorescent. I'm used to this being quite a transparenty airbrush colour. So I'm going to have to go in and redo that a bit. So mixing up a nice brown, I've also gone in and just done the outline in the teeth, done a few little bits here and there to darken it, and then going back over with white over the top just to bring it back a little bit. And then doing some white in his hair, his eye, and then more brown through his hair as well. And at this point, he's finished. He's kind of just a corpse with patchy hair, a decaying eyeball, and some strangely perfect teeth. So I am going to weather them a little bit more. And I'm giving the British person weathering. So this is just a tea bag with some hot water in it so that it kind of diffuses a bit, and patching it onto the teeth. You can see it does weather them quite nicely. Not enough to really do a lot of damage, but just enough to bring out some details on those teeth. And yeah, that's a finished Deadpool Wolverine corpse. So getting him clothed up and ready for a show. I don't know if you can call these clothes, they're kind of rags at this point. So you can see there he's quite small, and if you look really closely, you'll see me realising that I'm moving house, and where am I going to put a life-size skeleton? This is where the panic starts to kick in, and I realise I have nowhere to put one. So maybe we'll leave him in a wood somewhere for people to find. But there we go, that's this little project finished. Like I said, I had everything in the house kind of just lying around. except for the chrome and the gloss black. So this was just a fun little project thrown together. Not a whole lot of thought went into it. It was just a funny little Halloween prop that I'll be using later in the year, obviously for Halloween. Yeah, not really much to say. Just a silver skeleton with some rags and some rotting flesh. But I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think. And I hope this helps if you did want to make one yourself. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in what was probably going to be an action figure related video.